Welcome to Our Culture to the World. I'm Melva Persico. Come with me, meet new people, and share their experiences in this episode of Our Culture to the World. My guest today is Angela Akromfi. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Angela. If not, please say the right way and introduce yourself.
That is correct, Melba. It's Angela. Well, actually, my husband taught me it's Angela Akromfi.
Akromfi. Okay.
Akromfi. Yes.
Akromfi. Mhm.
Hmm.
Okay, great. So tell us about yourself, Angela.
Well, I am an American living in Ghana, and I have lived here for a little over a year. And since moving here, we've opened up a business called Modern Fabric, Fashion, and Beauty. And we primarily sell African prints, lace, and other, different types of accessories as well. And I was formerly an accountant in the US, and my last position was treasury manager at my job. It was actually a foreign country. I mean, a foreign company. It was a Korean company. And that was interesting. I know the title of your program is Our Culture to the World, and it was very interesting working for that company, um, being, like I said, a Korean company. And it was the first time I've ever worked with Koreans, and it was really interesting learning a lot about their culture, that I
Okay.
never knew about before. So, and
Mhm.
actually before that, I worked at a German company. So it's really weird. I am an international chick.
Yes, 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 yes. That's great. So it was, may not have been that um strange moving to Ghana, but tell us, why did you how did you end up in Ghana?
Well, I will say a lot of it had to do personal reasons from on my husband's side. But being the wife, what do we have to do? We have to go along with our husbands. So
Mhm.
I quit my job in America, and which wasn't a bad thing. I was kind of getting to my wits end with the rat race in America, so it wasn't like he had to twist my arm to get me to go
Mhm.
along. But that and then the political climate in America, in last year and the year before, it was very, very bad. I was always watching the news, which is probably not a good idea, not all the time, because the news can be depressing.
Right. Mhm.
So I just was not feeling it. I was upset a lot of the times, and even though I know that this here isn't all there is, but
Right.
still, just living in the moment was very frustrating.
Mhm.
So I said, you know what? Now might be a good time to just break away and get a fresh start, in a different place. So because he hadn't been back to his home country in 30 years,
Oh.
so it was neat because for both of us, it was like a new experience.
Mhm.
He was reintroducing himself to the country, and I was introducing myself to the country for the very first time. So
Mhm.
that's what kind of got us there, was just mainly personal reasons for him, and for me, wanting a different scene.
Right, right. And I can imagine so much would have changed in 30 years. Wow, I didn't realize it, because that he hadn't gone back in all that time. But how about you? I'm sure he had some culture shock experiences, but how about you as an American coming to this? Was this the first time you were um setting foot on the African continent?
It
So tell
was
us some culture shock experiences.
well, first of all, I'll say this. I wasn't, when we spoke about moving to Africa, it wasn't something that was so foreign to me because my father was in the Air Force, So because of that, we moved around quite a bit, within the United States and outside of the United States. We've lived in Europe, we've lived in Central America, we've lived in Alaska, which Alaska is part of the United States, but
Mhm.
it is very different from the lower 48, like from Seattle, Washington down to Florida. it is a totally different animal. So
Mhm.
it felt like a foreign country.
Mhm.
I remember when people found out I lived in Alaska, they would ask, did you guys live in igloos and whatnot? No, we lived in houses, thank you. So it wasn't so foreign, the idea of moving to a different country.
Mhm.
And my father is Panamanian.
Mhm.
So he's from Central America. And I lived there for a total of 5 years. And I thought, okay, Panama is a developing country. Ghana is a developing country. So I thought, it's not going to be that much of a difference. Yeah, there was a big difference. I mean, the climate is the same. They're both tropical, but because Panama had the influence of the Americans there because they built the Panama Canal.
Mhm.
Right. So there was a big, heavy influence. And so I think they affected the infrastructure in Panama as well. Ghana, the biggest culture shock for me was the infrastructure. Um, in Panama, it looked a lot more newer. It was more like technologically, it was pretty advanced. I mean, it was on the same plane as in America. They were a little bit behind fashion wise and whatnot, I can recall. But other than that, they were pretty much on target. Ghana, on the other hand, seems a bit behind. And with the infrastructure, the roads, the like the internet service, um, the lights going on and off, things of that nature. Even though I watched other YouTubers and they kind of warn you about, what to expect, it's still different once you get here.
Mhm.
I know one thing I have observed is that when you're the one driving in a car on a unpaved road here, because they have so many unpaved roads, or the roads aren't taken care of, they may be paved, but because they're not maintained, there's a lot of potholes in the road. And when you're the driver, you don't feel it as much as when you are the passenger. I don't know if that's more or less, I guess you wouldn't say it's culture, but it's a shock.
Okay, so right, it was a shock to you to find that certain aspects of the infrastructure weren't as up to date as you may have expected them to be, even though it's a third world country, a developing country.
Yeah, yeah.
But married to a Ghanaian, you you would have been to some extent though introduced to some aspects of the culture through your interactions with him, even though you were living in America. But were there still any things that maybe you had heard about Ghana or West Africa, kind of stereotypical things that now when you were, actually having now living there, you've lived there for a little over a year. Now you were able to see that, what the things that people say, they're not true.
Yeah. One of the things is that Ghana is like poor through and through. There everyone lives in huts. You're being run down by animals, wild animals, lurking around behind every tree. But that is not the case. I have my YouTube channel, which is my name, Angela Akromfi, or I should say Akromfi, as my husband tells me. Pronounce it right, Angela. But on it shows beautiful homes that are here in Ghana. And I was shocked because, you're always told, or it's been portrayed in the media in America, that Africa is a very poor nation. And as a whole, overall, it's developing. It is developing. So, in comparison to America, yeah, it's poor. I mean, America's, if not the wealthiest, one of the wealthiest countries in the world. So, yeah, it is poor, by comparison. but the homes and whatnot, some of the roads, some of the areas like East Legon and the airport area in Ghana is very beautiful, and the roads are very well maintained. Now, a lot of people from the diaspora live in those areas, and they make it their goal, their primary goal, to have roads that are very, very nice. In that area, you would almost forget you're in Ghana. Because to me, one of the things that make you realize you're in Ghana is the fact that the roads are so horrendous. And then there are other things that let you know you're in Ghana, of course, too. You see the flag colors everywhere, but over there, it's just like another world. You really forget the other side of Ghana. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of equate that to like living in New York City, living in Upper Manhattan, to different parts of New York City. Mm-hmm. Maybe the parts that aren't so nice. So I guess that's what you can compare it to. But so the fact again that and also that there's a middle class in Ghana. I mean, you will come to realize, okay, not everyone is poor in Ghana, but the fact that there are very, very wealthy people in Ghana, I mean, like millionaires, in Ghana, dollar millionaires, not CD millionaires, but, $1 million USD. And then there's a nice, robust middle class. Mm-hmm. There are so many homes that go up for the middle class. And I'm like, sometimes 3 people live in there. It's the husband, wife, and 1 child. And they have the equivalent of maybe a 4,000 square foot house. And I'm like, why do you even need a house this big? But it's like a lot of wasted space. But yeah, so a very burgeoning middle class. Again, there's not wild animals lurking around every corner. People, there's a northern region in Ghana, and in the north and places outside of Greater Accra too, there may be like I've been out and about in Ghana, and I have yet to see any kids with swollen bellies and the flies, that they portray on TV all the time. No one, I haven't seen anyone look like they were starving. Even homeless people, I've seen a couple of homeless. I think I made a video where I said I haven't seen any homeless, but I have seen a couple of homeless since. But I mean, they look well fed, they're talking to themselves walking down the street. That's why, they're homeless.
Maybe some kind of mental illness. Yeah.
Yes, yes, definitely a mental illness. But they're eating. They are eating. I've yet to see someone look like they're starving here. So those are some of the stereotypes that you have about Africa, that everyone's starving and there's animals running amok everywhere. I also did a video on there was a snake.
I remember that one.
That video short. And I'm walking and I see a snake, and I'm like, oh my goodness, a snake. And I was fortunate enough to be able to record it. And of all places, it was in New Jersey, in the United States, in New Jersey, a big snake. So I have yet to see a snake. I've been here over a year. I have yet to see a snake. What I do see, or what I have seen, are lizards. I see cows. And I mean, not cows on a farm. I see cows walking across the street.
Okay, sounds like Guyana. Guyana, similar.
You'll see chickens. You'll see what else? Goats. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like farm animals just walking. Having their leisure, nice leisure walk. And what's funny is they, I'm like, do they belong to? I'm asking, who do these belong to? Oh, that's the neighbors over there down the street, whatever. And I said, they're not worried someone's going to steal them. And they said, you know what? If someone steals them, they're not going to they do not want to get caught stealing. Like, no, their animals are pretty safe. And they go home every evening.
Yeah,
They
but
know where to
you know,
go.
when you that sounds very familiar to me because it's very similar in Guyana. So now, you know, you mentioned your YouTube channel a little bit, and we could continue, or I know you haven't at this time of our recording, you've kind of given it a bit of a rest, but I really enjoyed, you know, listening and watching Showcase Ghana, aspects of the culture through that channel. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you could share what prompted you to start this channel, and what has the experience been like for you?
Okay, so what prompted me to start the channel was that when I first went to Ghana, so my very first time to Ghana was in December of 2022, and we went there for our 10th year anniversary. Now, I was going there just for 2 weeks, but my husband actually went there to stay. He was going to find us a place and all that. So we went there for 2 weeks, and I documented my adventure. I was so excited when I first got to Ghana. I was just like, oh my gosh, how did that? Like I couldn't believe it. So anyway, I documented me, actually we landed in Togo at first. So we our flight landed in Togo, and I was so excited about that. Oh my goodness, we're in Togo. I was filming me in Togo, and then we got to Ghana and filmed the reunion with him and his brother and sister and nephew, and then showed us, at the poolside. We stayed at a very nice hotel, Movenpick, very nice hotel. I recommend anybody coming to Ghana, try the Movenpick. A little bit pricey, but it's worth slowly getting acclimated to Ghana. So if you stayed there, you'll be doing okay. So anyway, I was showing them that. So they loved the videos. They were like, oh my goodness, Angela, keep giving us more, keep giving us more. And so then they were also sharing them with other people. So it was like, okay, instead of doing all that, because I had planned, they wanted me to continue. When I went, like I said, I went there for 2 weeks myself. So then I went back to the United States to work for 3 more months before handing in my notice and all that stuff. Like I said, Abraham, my husband, was still in Ghana. So when I got there back to the United States, they were like, keep filming, we love it. So I said, okay, instead of always sending out videos to different ones and groups and all that stuff, and hey, I didn't get a video and blah blah blah, I said, you know what, let me just post it on YouTube. You guys can go there and see, whatever you want at your own convenience, just go to YouTube. And so they were like, okay. So that's how that got started. That's why I did that, just to document my experience, in Ghana, because a lot of people, they were worried, for me, because of the stereotypes.
Right.
Yeah. So they were just like, well, just let us know what's going on. We want to see, make sure you're okay and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, all right, I'll show you, So they're like, wow, okay, it's not that bad. So they feel like they rest a little easier, about me being over here, because my family and I are very, very close. So it helped them to sleep well at night.
Okay. But yeah, so but if you could just share, maybe what are some aspects of Ghanaian life and culture that you have shared so far on your channel? Just a little snippet of some of the things.
Okay, so I've shared, I took a boat ride. So that was a ride down the Volta River where they had entertainment, they had dancing, they had music, they had food and drinks, which was very, very nice. So I, documented that. I document a little bit of what's going on with my store. Me going to Marcola Market, which is one of the biggest markets in Ghana for food. They sell all types of different food outside, and that's quite an experience. The Marcola Market, actually, I mean, it sells fabrics, it sells food, clothes, kitchen, equipment or appliances and things use in the kitchen. I mean, they sell just about anything you can think of down there at the Mercola market. And the personalities of the people are amazing. They work so hard for so little. But so, I show that on my channel. One video was where I went out to a village, and I interviewed a mushroom farmer and his family, which was very interesting. It was a total shocker. One day I said, I'm just going to get in a car and I'm going to drive out to a village, and I don't know what's going to happen, but hey, we're just going to play it by ear. And so we came upon them. And so it was very, very interesting. I just love meeting, different people in Ghana, and they find me amusing because, like, I go up and so I start talking to people and they're like, what? What's wrong with her? I guess they don't do that. And then my accent, they don't understand. It's so funny that one time, the very first time I heard, I don't understand your accent. And I'm like, accent? I don't have an accent. You have an accent, not me.
Everybody has an accent.
But see, in America, you're used to living in America all your life. Even in America, yeah, you can say, okay, they're from the South, they're from New York, they're from California, but it's very slight. But in America too, because I'm not even known to have an accent in America, people are like, I don't know where you're from. Like, you really don't have an accent. So when I get here and someone says you have an accent, I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm thinking they have an accent. So that was, I've even documented that. I don't think I've uploaded that, but I think I've had conversations, where I'm talking to someone and, we're speaking about that. So yeah, just my experiences. One time I did a video about me handing out flyers, trying to let people know about my business, so documenting that, and just little insignificant things, but people are entertained, with the most basic of things. But just the fact that too, you're in a different country, you're exploring, you're getting out there talking to people and all that stuff. So, people find that interesting. So, yeah.
And I know, of course, you just mentioned a few, but there's some others that, like, I can recall. For instance, you talked. I think you visited how they weave the kente cloth.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and some like the craft markets. And there was even one when
Oh,
somebody was showing you how to cook some dish.
some granite soup or
Some
peanut
kind of
butter
soup.
soup.
Yes.
I still don't know how to make it.
One that I found particularly interesting as well for people who want to travel to Ghana is where you actually said, okay, if you're coming to Ghana, this is what you should bring and this is what you should not bring.
Oh, yes.
And I think that was very interesting too.
You know what's interesting about that? When I made that video, I hadn't been here that long. And the people that I had seen, the way they were dressing, the women dress pretty conservatively. But the longer I've been here, the more I see the Western influence, unfortunately, has affected them. Where the dressing may not be as, like I said, as conservative as I would have thought. Because things, I was saying, be careful about your length of your dress, and, not to wear things too snug. But I guess it depends on where you're living. Because if you are in, I call it the center city of Accra, because Accra actually has, like, I live in Accra, but I really live in Greater Accra. And there's a difference, because it's almost like saying New York City is, sometimes they'll consider the 5 boroughs, in a sense, like the metropolitan, the metropolitan area, New York City as a whole. Sometimes they consider it just as Manhattan. But Greater Accra encompasses many towns, many towns. So I actually live in a town called Oyarifa, but it's still in Greater Accra. So the center city of Accra is a lot more, it's less conservative
Okay.
than the other parts. So you will see people dressed, a little bit more provocatively than maybe where I live. But as time goes on, that little bubble just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, where you start to see even in the outskirts that people are dressing more provocatively, unfortunately. But hey, sign of the times, that we're living in, that it's just getting worse and worse. But yeah, I like that video too, actually.
Yeah.
It's very helpful, and besides that part that needed updating, everything else pretty much, accurate and still holds.
Yeah, and one of the things, like I noticed, there seems to be an interest, a lot of interest in recent years among African Americans, in, travel to West Africa, Ghana in particular. And do you have any thoughts on maybe why this is so? Thank you for watching part one of our conversation. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And watch part two to hear Angela's response to my last question and learn more about her YouTube channel and her business venture in Ghana. You'll also hear more of her experiences as an American living in Ghana. See you soon.